Imagine every excuse you ever made, every fear that whispered you weren't ready, every version of yourself that looked at the life you deserved and quietly walked away from it. Imagine all of that disappeared today. Gone. Not buried under discipline. Not suppressed by a new morning routine. Destroyed. And what remains is only one question, the most dangerous, most clarifying question you will ever face in your life. Who are you without the story you have been telling yourself? Because here is what no motivational speech will ever say out loud. You can change your income. You can change your city. You can change your wardrobe, your network, your diet, your discipline, your habits, your daily schedule, your entire external existence, and still wake up tomorrow feeling like the same restless, quietly desperate, quietly defeated person you were before any of it changed. And you will wonder why. You will search for the next system, the next book, the next strategy, but the answer will never be out there. Because the problem was never out there, it was always in here, not in a way that should shame you, in a way that should set you completely free. Today, you are going to discover exactly how to break your old identity, the one that has been running your life like a program you never agreed to install, and replace it with something built for the life you are actually capable of living. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city in the comments. Let's see who's in the room. People believe transformation is an external event. They believe that the right opportunity arrives, the right door opens, the right person appears, and then everything shifts. And so they spend their lives arranging the outside of themselves. They update the resume. They move to a new city. They join the gym, launch the business, end the relationship, start another one. And for a moment, sometimes weeks, sometimes months, it feels like something changed. But the feeling fades because the geography changed. The circumstances changed. The props on the stage changed. But the person standing on that stage, the same. And the same person placed in new circumstances will eventually recreate the same results. Different names, different cities, different industries, same ceiling. Because the ceiling was never external. The ceiling was always the upper boundary of what the identity believed it deserved. Tony Robbins has spent more than 4 decades working with the most successful people in the world, billionaires, presidents, world champions, people who by every visible metric had already won. And the pattern he found, repeated without exception, was this: the outer life is always a reflection of the inner standard. Not a reflection of effort, not a reflection of talent, not a reflection of luck or timing or access. A reflection of the standard the identity holds for itself. And here is the brutal implication of that truth. If your inner standard is low, if somewhere beneath the ambition and the hustle and the productivity systems, there is a quiet voice that does not actually believe you belong at the level you are reaching for, then every external win will feel hollow. The promotion will feel like a mistake they will eventually discover. The relationship will feel like something you might ruin. The business growth will feel like borrowed time. Not because those things are fragile, because your belief about yourself is. This is not a motivational concept. This is the mechanism of human psychology confirmed by neuroscience, validated by decades of behavioral research. The identity sets the thermostat. When life rises above it, the subconscious pulls it back down. When life falls below it, it drives you back up. But the thermostat itself, the setting, the standard, the ceiling, that never moves on its own. You have to move it, and you cannot move it from the outside. Your old identity was not chosen. That is the first thing you need to understand about it, because that understanding is what allows you to stop defending it. You did not sit down one day with full awareness and freedom and select the beliefs you would carry about yourself. You did not choose the ceiling. You did not choose the fear. You did not choose the particular flavor of self-doubt that shows up every time something important is within reach. It was given to you, built from the conclusions you drew before you had the wisdom or the safety to draw them accurately. Built from the moment a teacher said something that quietly confirmed your worst suspicion about yourself. Built from a parent, exhausted and overwhelmed, who had no capacity to show you what capable looked like. Built from a failure that happened in public and left a mark you translated into an identity rather than a lesson. Every limiting belief you carry has an origin story, and that origin story made sense at the time. The child who decided to stay small was protecting himself. The teenager who stopped trying before he could fail was managing pain. The young man who built walls around his ambition was preserving himself from a world that had not yet proven it was safe to want more. That was intelligent behavior. That was survival. But survival behavior and growth behavior are not the same behavior, and what kept you safe in one season of life will keep you stuck in the next. Here is what makes the old identity so durable, so resistant to change. Even when you desperately want to change, the brain does not distinguish between who you were and who you are. It runs the same program. It maintains the same map of yourself, drawn in rooms you no longer inhabit, by hands that no longer touch your life. And it navigates your present with that outdated map, as though it is still accurate. Every morning, the old identity runs its checklist. What level of success is acceptable today? What level of risk is tolerable today? What ceiling, what standard, what range of outcomes is consistent with who I believe myself to be? And anything outside that range gets quietly eliminated, not through dramatic self-sabotage. Through the hundreds of invisible micro decisions made before you are even conscious enough to question them. The call you didn't make, the room you didn't walk into, the ask you didn't make, the boundary you didn't hold, the price you didn't charge, one by one, day after day. And most people never see the mechanism. They see only the results. They see the gap between where they are and where they want to be, and they call it discipline or luck or circumstance. It is none of those things. It is identity. Tomorrow is where dreams go to die. Today is where lives change. If this channel is the kind of work you are looking for, if this level of depth is what you have been missing, subscribe right now, because we go here every week. No fluff, no filler, just the work that actually changes something. There is a story from ancient military history that every serious student of strategy knows. When a commanding general needed his soldiers to fight without hesitation, when retreat could not be an option, when half commitment would mean death, he would order the bridges burned behind the army as they advanced into enemy territory, not as punishment, not as cruelty, as clarity. Because as long as the way back exists, part of the mind is always tracking it. Part of your cognitive energy, part of your emotional reserves, part of your courage is silently, constantly calculating the cost of retreat, keeping the option warm, maintaining the exit. And that reserved energy is the oxygen your old identity breathes. Take away the exit, and that oxygen disappears. The bridge in your life does not look like a wooden structure over a river, but it is just as real, and its destruction is just as necessary. The bridge is the social circle that rewards your smallness with belonging, where ambition is quietly punished with distance, and the group's approval requires you to stay exactly where you are. The bridge is the comfortable job that pays just enough to make risk feel irrational. The bridge is the internal narrative that your history, your family's history, your failures, your past decisions has already written your future. As long as you can go back to any of those things, part of you will. Not consciously, not dramatically, quietly, in the moments of friction, in the moments of doubt, in the moments when the new identity asks something difficult of you. The old one points to the bridge and says, we don't have to do this. Tony Robbins speaks about this as the moment of total commitment, the moment when you stop treating transformation as an experiment and start treating it as a conclusion. Not, I am trying to become this person. Not, I am working toward being this person. I am this person. The old version is finished. The Stoics called this the practice of living according to your chosen values rather than your inherited impulses. Marcus Aurelius did not simply philosophize about the man he wanted to become. He wrote the description of that man in his private journal and then held it against himself every single day, using the gap between the ideal and the reality not as a source of shame, but as a compass. Not, I failed today, but I know which direction is forward. Burning the bridge does not mean abandoning wisdom from your past. It does not mean pretending your history did not happen. It means making one irreversible declaration. The person those experiences built is no longer the person making my decisions. That declaration is the most important thing you will ever say to yourself. And you can say it today. Not when you feel ready, not when the conditions improve, not when the fear goes away, because the fear will not go away. The fear is load-bearing. It lives inside every threshold worth crossing. You burn the bridge and you cross into the fear because the life worth having is on the other side of it. And you have always known that. Here is the lie that most personal development content sells you. And it is a comfortable lie, which is why it sells so well. The lie is this: clarity comes first, then action. That one day, if you journal enough, meditate enough, therapy enough, retreat enough, the fog will lift, the true self will emerge, the purpose will crystallize, and then you will know who you are becoming, and the transformation can begin. It is a beautiful idea. It is also almost entirely backwards. The new identity does not arrive before the behavior. The new identity is constructed through the behavior. It is not waiting to be discovered like something buried in you that simply needs excavation. It is waiting to be built, assembled through the daily decisions of a person who has chosen to act like someone they do not yet fully feel like being. This is the part nobody wants to hear, because it asks something deeply uncomfortable of you. It asks you to act without certainty, to show up without confirmation, to hold a vision of yourself that the evidence around you does not yet support, and to move toward it anyway, not because you feel ready, not because the fear is gone, but because you have decided. The decision comes first, every time. Marcus Aurelius, at the height of his power as Emperor of Rome, woke up each morning wrestling with the same resistance every ordinary person wrestles with. His journals, what we now call meditations, are not the triumphant declarations of a man who figured it all out. They are the private notes of a man who had to choose every single day who he was going to be, not because he was weak. Because character is not a destination you arrive at, it is a direction you maintain, he chose. And then he became, and you, in your apartment, in your city, in whatever chapter of life you are currently inside, you have the same capacity for the same choice. The new identity is built on a very simple but unforgiving foundation. You decide who you are, and then you act like that person before you feel like that person. You make the call that the new version of you would make. You have the conversation that the new version of you would not avoid. You set the standard that the new version you would not compromise. You hold the boundary that the new version of you would not negotiate away. And at first, it will feel like performance. It will feel like pretending. The imposter syndrome will not be a whisper. It will be a shout. Every move you make in the direction of the new identity will be met by the old one saying, you don't actually belong here. You haven't earned this yet. They're going to find out. Let it shout. It is not telling you the truth. It is telling you the distance between where you are and where you are going. And that distance is not evidence that you cannot make it. It is evidence that you are moving. Neuroscience has confirmed what the Stoics intuited thousands of years ago: the brain is plastic. It rewires itself around repeated patterns of thought and behavior. Every time you act in alignment with the new identity, every time you make the choice the old version would have avoided, you strengthen a neural pathway. You make that behavior more automatic. You make the new identity more real. And every time you collapse back into the old pattern, you reinforce the old wiring. This is not a metaphor. This is the literal mechanism by which character is formed and reformed. The battle you are in is not between you and your circumstances. It is not between you and the people who doubted you. It is not between you and the market, the economy, the timing. It is between the version of you that has already decided and the gravitational pull of the version that wants to go back. Gravity is patient. You have to be more patient. You have to be more relentless. You have to decide again every morning before the day gives you a reason not to. The same fire that melts wax-hardened steel. Sit with that. Because somewhere in your life right now, maybe in the difficulty you are currently facing, maybe in the failure that is still fresh, maybe in the rejection that landed harder than you expected, there is a fire. And you have been standing in front of it, feeling it, wondering what it means about you. It means nothing about your worth. It means everything about your choice. Because hardship is not random punishment distributed by an indifferent universe to people who weren't careful enough. Hardship is the pressure under which identity is revealed, and more importantly, under which identity is formed. The person you are when everything is comfortable, when the momentum is good, when the support is present. That person is largely inherited. That person is the old identity running on autopilot. The person you are when the pressure is real, when the support disappears, when the outcome is uncertain and the cost of continuing is high, that person is chosen. That person is the one you are actually building. Tony Robbins has stood in front of millions of people in the lowest moments of their lives. People who had lost everything visible, people who had no logical reason for optimism. And what he has observed, without exception, is that the variable between the ones who come back and the ones who stay broken is never the severity of what happened to them. It is the meaning they choose to assign to it, not the circumstance. The interpretation. The person who says this happened to me and it means I am not capable stays broken. The person who says this happened and it is now part of the foundation I am building on becomes something the difficulty was designed to reveal. The Stoics called this amor fati, love of fate, not passive acceptance, active embrace. The recognition that the obstacle is not in the way of the path, the obstacle is the path. That the difficulty is not evidence of your failure to deserve better. It is the raw material of the person you are deciding to become. You do not get to choose whether the fire comes. You only get to choose what you are when you come out of it. So close your eyes. Imagine meeting yourself 10 years from now. Not the version that coasted. Not the version that waited for the right moment, for the fear to ease, for the path to clarify before committing to it. The version that decided today. The version that burned the bridge, stepped into the fire, held the identity under pressure, and built, slowly, imperfectly, relentlessly, the life that the old identity never believed was possible. Look at that person. How do they carry themselves? What does their voice sound like when they speak? What decisions do they make without hesitation that you agonize over right now? What did they have to lose to become what they became? What did they have to stop defending? What story did they finally stop telling? That person is not a fantasy. That person is the logical result of a decision you can make in the next 60 seconds. Not eventually. Not when you feel ready. Not when the circumstances change now. The choice has always been yours. It was yours the day the old identity was handed to you, and you didn't yet have the awareness to refuse it. It is yours right now, with full awareness, with full clarity, with everything you have just understood in this conversation. The old version served its purpose. Let it go. Your old identity has taken you as far as it can. Every achievement you have built from inside it carries that same invisible ceiling. And you have already felt it. You have pressed against it. You have wondered why the winds don't land the way you expected. Why the progress never quite fills the space you were trying to fill. Because the container was never built for what you are actually capable of. The next chapter demands a different person. Not a better version of the old one. A completely new identity. Subscribe to this channel, because this is only the beginning of the work we're doing here. And drop a comment below right now. What is the one identity level decision you are making today? Start now, not tomorrow. Now,